Well, welcome to a very special new series of Sheroes Unlimited. I'm Jaynie Morris, and I'm really excited because we've been getting so much feedback from all of you about how much you are loving our podcast, how much you're loving our magazines at Boom and Babes Life, how much you're loving our content that's inspiring women over 50. And as a direct result of that, we've decided to do a new series of Sheroes Unlimited that actually brings in women that aren't 50, but there is a connection always to a woman over 50 because we're not losing that lane that we travel down. Sheroes Unlimited Mother and Daughter series is where we are going to be shining lights on amazing women over 50 and their equally amazing daughters. And it is my absolute honor to kick off our series 1 with two women that I have to say I do know. However, I won't let you know all of the secrets that I know unless they want to share them on this podcast. Suzanne Skillen and her daughter Katy Perry live here in Australia, but their stories individually and together are not only inspiring, but they are courageous on so many levels. So Suzanne and Katy, welcome to Sheroes Unlimited Mother and Daughter series.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is so exciting. Thank you.
Now, first of all, I have to say that for our audience who are watching this podcast on our YouTube channels and on our website, can you please identify which one is which, because you both look like sisters?
That's really, really flattering, because I was thinking how much over 50 I am. I've got a really big birthday coming up this year. So, yeah.
We both have very big birthdays.
We do. We've got,
but I'm Katy Perry,
yeah.
And not to be confused with the singer. So if I started singing, I think you'd all turn this podcast off.
And I'm the mum, and a very proud mum, I must say, as well. And love this opportunity to do this with Katy and with you, Jaynie.
Oh, well, it's great to have you. Okay, so let's kick it off and let's continue on the theme of introducing both of you. So if perhaps we can start with you, Suzanne. Now, you're originally from England, so you're born in England. You have lived all over the world and you now reside in Sydney, Australia. Can you fill in the gaps a little bit for us?
Okay, how long have we got? I'll try and do it as quickly as possible. I'm a Londoner and born in London, and when I was 10 years old I went to live in Yorkshire, which is right in the middle of the UK, and right in a little country village there. I've just been a gypsy at heart my whole life. I've had the most amazing opportunity of traveling, as you said, all over the world. From being a little girl, I wanted to be a ballerina, and at the age of 10 I actually left home, which now when I look at 10-year-olds, it's like, how did I do that? I was managing my own finances. I got a job at 12, and I was at a ballet school in London, which was a long way away from Yorkshire. It was a 5-hour steam train trip, but the moment that opportunity opened up for me, my world opened, and I never really went home afterwards, to be honest. At the age of 15 I got a job with a ballet company, and our rehearsals were in Paris, and that was the very first time I'd ever taken a plane, and it fed something in me that this whole big world was waiting for me. And I didn't let anybody know from the company that it was my very first plane trip, because they were all so sophisticated and I didn't want them to know that I certainly wasn't, but inside I was so excited. And that led to actually an amazing career traveling all over the world, living in the incredible places, and I've actually lived and worked in 18 different countries. So still a gypsy at heart, really, really love traveling. And I'll just share a very quick little story. The other day I was looking through some photos of Katy and myself, and we actually got a transfer from London to live in Adelaide for 18 months. And on the way through, we stopped in Sydney, and I have this picture of the Sydney Opera House and a picture of Katy, and she was like 18 months. And beside it, I've written, I absolutely love Sydney, and one day we will live here. And it's written in that book, and we do. We live in Sydney. We've been living here. This is our base, and yeah, dreams do come true. So, as they say, you know, be really careful what you wish for, because they definitely come true. And I hadn't even remembered I'd done that. So since then, we've, you know, lived in many different countries. Katie can tell you all her experiences of living, going to different schools, and looking back, I'm so grateful we had that opportunity of traveling, because it's the best education you can give your kids, to be actually able to learn different languages, different cultures, appreciate how privileged you are when you live in a country like Australia compared to when we lived in Africa or when we were living in Bangkok, and so many different places. So, and we landed here, and happily here. This is our base now.
That's amazing, and there's so many stories, and colourful stories, I'm sure, that make up the fabric of that journey from then until right now. Katie, so if let's look at when your earliest memories of what Suzanne has just said. So with your life.
Wow, one of my earliest memories would probably be in Johannesburg. So we lived in this beautiful townhouse. We created this amazing community. I loved primary school. There's stories that all the boys used to wait to play until I arrived at school. So I peaked early. My most popular time was in primary school. And I actually really loved our time in Johannesburg. And it was also the place that my brother was born. So it's really special for our family. We moved countries every 18 months to 3 years. So I was born in London, but from that time we went, you know, Adelaide, Johannesburg, Sydney, Taipei, Sydney, Bangkok, and then Sydney again when my parents divorced. So I'm very much that third culture kind of kid, which means, you know, I grew up all around the world, which was very much a blessing and a curse.
So let's talk about the curse side of things, because I know some of our audience will be listening to this right now who have had their lives with their children just like that, where, you know, like fly in, fly out families, as well as different circumstances that have perhaps taken them maybe just interstate or even to another town, and so their children have had to change schools on a regular basis. How did you navigate as a child? How did you find the resources to navigate through that?
I think one of the things is I love people, and I think that came out from having to move all the time. What was hard was that you'd start a new school, you know, you'd be there, it would probably take about a year to really settle in, start meeting friends, and then, you know, would have a family meeting and be like, oh, well, in another year we're leaving. And then you'd have to go through the whole process again. And obviously this was before Zoom and Facebook and social media, so you'd lose touch with those friends. So I don't really have any friends that I went to primary school with that I can catch up with now. I love Facebook because we can still stay connected, but, you know, my friends in Johannesburg, I don't have any, I'm not in touch with any of them. So I think that is part of the curse, but, you know, that can be flipped, is that I love going to new places. I'm very much about building a community. So we recently, well, probably about a year ago, we moved just suburbs, you know, kind of across Sydney. And like now we've got this beautiful community. I love, like, when I walk my daughter to daycare and we say hello to the mums and, you know, say hello to my neighbor. And that's something that is very important to me. And I think that comes from that constant moving, is that I now crave community. But I know that you can create that whether you live somewhere for 30 years or whether you live there for, you know, 3 months. It's all up to you to build that.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the advantages, that Katie really watched what I did, because obviously every country we go to, I didn't have any kind of community, family or any support. And when we got there, I would immediately find a community of great women who became my friends. Some of them are still lifelong they're lifelong friends, even though it's only through Facebook now. We haven't seen each other for years, but if I know that we did, we'd pick it up immediately, that friendship. I would always open from a dancer, I became a Pilates practitioner, and I would always open a studio somewhere and build an amazing relationship. But the other thing is that I would always volunteer. So I would find an orphanage to work at. In Bangkok, I worked with a lot of underprivileged children, and we used to, it was actually it's called a slum kindergarten. It sounds awful, but it was a slum kindergarten. And in fact, the tuk-tuk drivers wouldn't even go to the area where this kindergarten was. And the mothers, there was a hospice for the mothers. Many of them had HIV and AIDS at the time. And because this is like 1980s.
And wasn't there a slaughterhouse next door?
There was a slaughterhouse next door. Yeah, so there's blood and yeah, it wasn't a nice place to go to. However, this little community, it was run by a priest, actually, a local Catholic priest. And what we would do is I'd volunteer there, and I used to teach ballet to the children. And we'd get there and wash the children, give them a breakfast, put them in a little uniform that we'd washed already. Everything was nice and clean for them, give them a good hearty breakfast. And then some girls would teach art, we'd teach English, we'd teach singing, I did the dancing. And it was in one room with a really low hanging fan. And I'll never forget one day telling everyone to stand on their tippy toes, copying me. So we went down, 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 low, high, high, high. And all the children went, ah, because my fingers nearly touched the fan. And it was one of those moments I'll never forget, how they kind of saved me, these little children. And then Katie would come with me. And what was interesting was some of these children were blonde and blue-eyed. Their fathers, well, one particular little girl, her father was Danish, and she had blonde hair and blue eyes. So Katie was looking at this little girl thinking, well, this could be me living here. And I think those were lessons that you never forget. I'm talking, this is your story.
Particularly from a young age.
Yes.
And I think that, again, that is one of the blessings when you do travel and you are going to different countries with different cultures. I used to see kids begging on the streets and realize how privileged I was. And, we lived in Bangkok with a beautiful house. We had a cook, cleaner, chauffeur, but I think that was what was so special, is that my mum realized I don't want her to become white privilege, where she thinks that this is how everybody lives. She really made me aware from a very early age that there is that kind of the light and the darkness to everything.
And in fact, outside the house where we lived at the bottom of our soil, there was a huge rubbish tip. And there was a community of people lived on that rubbish tip. And there was a hierarchy. The people on the top of the rubbish tip were richer than the ones on the bottom, because the ones at the bottom had the last bits that were coming through, where the people at the top got all the fresh things. So I've always had this thing, anything that comes into our house, something has to go out. It was just a little rule that I had. If you have a new toy, give something away. So we'd always go down to the rubbish tip and then give things to the people at the bottom, some food and clothes. And it's very easy when you can keep generating and give things away, and there's no exchange of money. It's just a matter of, okay, this will fit this person, or this person would like to play with that. And that became very much part of our life too. So different to how we live now. We have to search for that now, but I tell you, we still do a lot of charity work. We find it. Yeah, we find who needs us.
And that example that you've just used there, that the two of you, and that's certainly a part of the fabric of your life now, Katie, as well, that you're on, sharing with and teaching with your children too. But that lesson, I guess, is such a gold nugget right now, especially for our audience, because we have been such a throwaway community, and it's been part of the hardship that many are now experiencing as a result. And if we just take that mindfulness of that moment of what that concept, I should say, of what you've just said there, Suzanne, that when something comes in and something goes out, however, know where that's going. Make sure that I mean, I'm not talking rubbish off a candy wrap, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, that's a great nugget that you've just shared with us. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I've just got that myself. So, like, that's absolute God. Can I touch on something here, Suzanne? In your past, you may or may not want me to bring this up, but I'm going to, because you know what I'm like. So in the early years, when you were living in London, and you mentioned that you are a fully qualified Pilates teacher, and that has served you well in your traveling around the world to open up new friendships and groups and meet new people. My people tell me that when you were in London, that you were actually training Princess Diana. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And
It is correct, and many other really famous people. And I had that happened because I think most people know the movie Rush that Chris Hemsworth was in, about the Formula One racing driver called James Hunt. Well, he was somebody I knew. He was a friend, and he was looking for his future, what he was going to do after he finished Formula One racing. And he opened a gym in the King's Road, and he asked me to run part of the gym. Actually, it was Nautilus in those days. I was sent to New York to do a Nautilus training. I don't think anybody does Nautilus now, but it was actually the first kind of real machines that people were using. Yes. And because it was a celebrity gym, it was, the paparazzi didn't know it even existed. It didn't have the name above the door. And a lot of very famous people went there. And it was a great place as well for them to be safe. There wasn't any, the paparazzi weren't there. There were no photographers, no sneak stories. And I had the privilege of actually training one of Princess Diana's really good friends. She wasn't a princess, by the way, when I met her, but she was going out with Prince Charles when I very first met her. And her friend, who was a baroness, who I was training at her home, introduced me to her. And through that, I got connected with all these incredible people. And to be honest, I sometimes didn't even know who they were, because when you're teaching, I just knew their first names, and then I'd see them in the Daily Mail and say, oh, that's that lady I taught last week. But I became really good friends with a lot of them. And exercise is an interesting thing, particularly Pilates. It's very primal. So people, because you're working on breath and energy, and I got some lovely opportunities to really connect with some amazing people. It was a big privilege in my life. And of course, all the racing car drivers who were extraordinary athletes. And particularly in those days, it was more about the athletes that were driving the cars. The cars weren't as incredible as they are now. They've really obviously moved, like everything has, very, very fast. And they're almost futuristic now. But those drivers, how they worked was incredible, and how they trained to be drivers and what it took out of them. They would get out of their suits and water would just pour out of those suits from sitting for hours going around those tracks, concentrating. So, that was a privilege to see another world, which, to be honest, Jaynie, at the time, I didn't realize how amazing it all was, because it was one of those things. It was just happening and I wasn't documenting it. It was just like, these people are amazing. I have to get on with this. And I was holding on with my fingernails too, because I was a single mum. And I was supporting Katie, and we were just discussing how expensive it is to take care of childcare, how expensive it is, nannies. And I was saying sometimes by the end of the week, I had just a couple of pounds left, because by the time I got the food, paid the nanny, managed to get the bus trips backwards and forwards to the gym. So even though I was in this privileged environment, I didn't have very much money. I was a single mum just making do, really, and hanging on with my fingernails.
And a really interesting and colourful time, absolutely. And so, Katie, what are your memories of there? Because the two of you, I must say to our audience, the two of you are featured in our September issue 2020 of Boomer Babes Life magazine. And I did see a photograph there of Suzanne in her workout gear and a little girl. And I'm assuming that little girl was you, Katie. So what are memories of all of this. And did you embrace Pilates and all the your forms of exercise just like your mum? Were you a bit of a copycat, or how did it work for you?
Yeah, I've always been a copycat because my mum's been like my role model. So I've always been like a mini mum. And, you know, I remember she would bring me to, you know, the gyms while she was teaching. I'd kind of sit in the back. And I think one of the things is now I hear people say when they go to the gym, oh, I hate going to the gym, or I feel so insecure. I'm so comfortable. I actually love going to gyms. I'm very comfortable there because I used to do that, you know, from a very young age. I adore Pilates. I adore reformer Pilates. I did that recently up until I was like 36 weeks pregnant. Best form of exercise. But it's very much, I mean, pretty much anything my mum does, even now, I'll copy and do because I know that she does her research, and I know that, yeah, that I love anything that she's doing. And I think I'm creating the next generation. My daughter's very much a mini me as well. So it's quite interesting to see these three very strong, different women.
I was just going to mention that actually, that we've gone into the next generation. So little Savannah, who, and we should give her a call out. She turns 4 tomorrow.
Big day.
Really big day that we're heading for. Because we meditate, we exercise, we talk about crystals, we talk about energy, we talk about kindness, we talk about anonymous acts of kindness. So she's growing up with that. And I'm watching, and I was relating a story today to Katie that it was like watching Katie, what Savvy was doing. And she just knew, it's just in her. And like it was with Katie, and they dancing. This child has more tutus than I even had when I was dancing, and her wardrobe is full of tutus. But she just loves to dance, and I'm watching that. And Katie was exactly the same. And that picture you saw, I was laughing because it was a time when it's kind of. I was teaching aerobics at the time, actually, and that was a photo shoot. And Katie kept coming.
It was a photo shoot just for mom, so yeah. I wasn't supposed to be part of it because I'm always attached to her hip. And Savannah is now. Anytime I complain about Savannah's like, oh, she's always sitting on me, mom, and she just won't let me go. And she goes, I know the feeling. It's always happened to me. So
yeah, she stole the. Basically,
I wanted to join.
Yes, it was cute. So I love that. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing, because these are all good things, you know, Pilates, yoga, meditation, and it's got us through really tough times that haven't defined us, because we have this other world that we can always tap into. And I'm really grateful the fact that I've had that knowledge and that opportunity to learn from some masters all over the world. It was always something I've always done. As you know, I spend a lot of time in India, and I just love to travel and learn and pass it on to my children and my grandchildren. And I think that's such a gift, because in the climate that we have now, there's more time for introspection. There's more time to look at really, what do you really, really love doing? And I know even where I go to exercise, one of them, the women the other day was saying, I don't even want to do spin classes anymore, or lift weights, or have a personal trainer. I said, well, don't do it. Don't do it. What were you gaining from that? Why don't you explore stretch classes, yin yoga, meditation, qigong, tai chi? There's another whole world out there as well. And I think for many years, everybody thought they had to do all these things. And look, I was, you know, the aerobics queen at one point, but not pushing, really looking, what do you really love doing? And do it. Do that thing that you love doing. And we're fortunate in both loving the same things.
Well, Katie, you are absolutely embracing that in your life now as far as a career is concerned. You're an incredibly talented designer, and you are very specific about your particular brand. Can you tell us about Katy Perry?
Yeah, definitely. So I've had the brand since 2016. It was always my dream to be a fashion designer since I was 11. So I always studied it, but realized that there are some amazing designers out there But unless you have that business side and that knowledge of the industry, it is a very tough industry. So I worked as a buyer, I worked on shop floors, I worked in Browns in London, big department stores here in Sydney, and was fortunate and was a bit of a blessing that I actually had a really horrible female boss. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm all about female empowerment. I'm, the sisterhood. I love women. I love what we can do when we combine. And what you're doing, Jaynie, I'm so grateful to be part of this. But there's also that flip side. I think there's also some women who, particularly when they're in leadership roles, try to be like a man and can be either jealous about the next generation coming through, and nothing I could do was good enough. It was very like that old style management. And I was on a very secure career path. And it made me go, what am I doing? This was supposed to be all about getting the experience to then start my label. So I was then able to look at that, and I resigned from my job and started my label. And the label has always been made here in Australia, right?
And we're coming back to you live because, well, live as far as the recording is concerned, this is how this is real and raw, people. I just had a coughing attack. And so we just had to take a quick break. But we're back. So sorry about that, Katie.
Please, I'll pick up where I left off, hopefully.
Please continue. So we're talking about the crazy woman that you had a terrible boss.
Terrible boss.
Yep.
Then started my label. Everything from the beginning has been made locally, so made here in Australia. That's something that's very important to me. But I also wanted to create a collection that women would put on and feel more comfortable, more stylish, more confident within themselves. Because I know I'm a very curvy girl. I always have been. I've always struggled with my weight. And I used to go shopping and not have money to spend. And then would come out of the shops with nothing because, I've got boobs. Sorry, I'm not in fashion this season. And I felt like the fashion industry was constantly making me feel less than and not enough. So I wanted to create a label where women could put these clothes on and go, wow, I feel beautiful, and stand up that little bit taller and put their shoulders back and have clothes that aren't digging in. Clothes that are, flattering curves and embracing female shape. So I created that, back in 2016. So I've been going for a while.
And it's getting rave reviews from everybody, every woman that is wearing your garments. I've seen it all over social media. I've seen the testimonials. They're absolutely amazing. I've seen your clothes. I actually have to say, I actually don't have a Katy Perry yet. I have to say there was a part of me, there was one stage there that I saw 3 outfits and I thought, I absolutely have to have those. And then Suzanne had them. And I thought, well, if she and I walk into an event, the same event together, and we're both wearing a KP, there might be a little bit of somebody's got to go.
Me. Not so great for you, but amazing for me. Good branding.
Well, I probably still got them. That's the other thing. They are absolutely timeless. And
yes.
I would say to Katie, your things just don't wear out. They last and last and last.
And that's one of the other things, you mentioned, Jaynie, about how we are in this culture of just you buy and you throw out, that kind of fast fashion. And, the fashion industry is the second biggest polluter, so after oil. And I just think as a fashion designer, that is on me to not be part of that. So it's a very sustainable, it's an ethical brand. We use a lot of merino wool. I've just started looking at using bamboo, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's what we need to kind of embrace, like that whole buy less, wear your clothes more, shop from your wardrobe, but have pieces that you put on and you go, oh, I feel great, or I feel really sexy, or I feel really confident, and I'm ready to take on the world, as opposed to, I've got this $10 t-shirt from Kmart, it's got a bit of a mark on it, I'm just going to throw it away, and it doesn't quite fit, and when I sit down, it digs in, I don't really love it, but it was only $15, and I'm hoping that, particularly now with everything that's been going on in the world, that we are starting to see a shift. We saw that with food. There was the slow food movement and organic, and now people, even uni students, are proud to buy an organic, chicken. And we're starting to see that with fashion.
Hi, Jaynie Morris here. I just wanted to stop in and quickly remind you that if you're enjoying this podcast as much as we love bringing all of these podcasts to you, then make sure that you do subscribe, because that way you'll never miss an episode. It's really easy to do. Or you can go to the website www.boomerbabeslife.com. Go to the podcast section and click subscribe. You'll never miss an episode that way. But of course, if you're listening to this podcast at any streaming device like iTunes, Spotify, we're on them all, or of course on YouTube, make sure you do exactly the same. Subscribe, and then that way you'll never miss an episode. We've got our Sheroes Unlimited episodes. We've got our Sheroes Unlimited Behind the Book podcasts, where we're always shining lights on amazing women over 50 who have written incredible books that we recommend just for you. So we go behind the scenes on those podcasts. And of course, we do have our Boomer Babes Life Wellness podcasts, where we interview amazing women over 50 who have got great insight and tips on being healthy and having great wellness. So there you are. Check them all out. They're over at the website, boomerbabeslife.com. Make sure you subscribe, and remember, share them. Share the love. Share it with everyone so that we can create an absolutely fabulous world. That's what we do at Boomer Babes Life, inspiring women over 50. So speaking of COVID, we've actually been living in these crazy times for several months now. So I'm really keen to find out how the two of you have been adapting and dealing with it all, and especially as such a tight-knit family, you know, what you've been doing.
Oh, goodness. Well, we've stayed tight-knit. That's very sure. We've got tighter knitted, and I still have seen my grandchildren every Tuesday. I look after the grandchildren, and we've just kept very much to ourselves. Paul and I still haven't been out to a restaurant. We've done some babysitting, but I think what really has happened, it's that time for introspection, as I was saying earlier, and I've really got absolute, I think it's like the meme that shows when things get tense, your meditation practice should double. And I would say mine has probably tripled. I'm doing so much more meditation. We live very close to a park, so that hasn't stopped. Still walking. We've always walked every morning. We're still doing that. And I've taken up Qigong in a big way, and absolutely addicted to it. So when people say, what's Qigong, which I'm sure
I was just going to say, hold on. Like, back up for a second.
I saw your face. So you imagine if Tai Chi and yoga had a baby, it would be Qigong.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. Just more introspection, reading a lot, and I'm absolutely an avid reader anyway, and kind of using this time to really catch up with my reading, time for, as I said, meditation, time for myself, and really looking at where I want to be in the future, who I want to be. And interesting enough, I always have a word for every year, and I couldn't get a word for this year. My word last year was luminous. I love that word. It's like, that's my word. But I kept getting a sentence, which was, do less to be more. And that was before COVID. That was my sentence. So really that's where I am at this time. I'm doing a lot less, and I'm being more.
So we've had very different COVID experiences. So even listening to Mum, I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. I want your COVID experience. I've got two little kids. So particularly when we went down to lockdown, I pulled them out of daycare. Well, I pulled Savannah out of daycare. So she turns 4 tomorrow. So I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home. My husband working from home from our bedroom. Also trying to run a business. It's been tough, and I can't say, like, one, I'm never going to be a daycare teacher. I can honestly say that. Before I pulled her out, I spent an hour doing this plan, and I was like, had this little routine, you know, at 11:20 we're going to do musical guitar lessons, and 12 o'clock we'll have Italian, and 1:20 we're going to have lunch. And I looked at it, it's on the fridge, and yesterday I looked at it and actually just laughed because none of that happened. I didn't even do it for a day. Like, it was so unrealistic. And I think that's something that I have really learned from this whole COVID thing, is that it's all very well to have amazing plans and to set yourself up with these high expectations, but you have to just let it all go. You know, I don't think any of us for the whole of 2020 can make any plans. And particularly not when when you've got little kids. I mean, they're the greatest lessons on you can never plan anything. You know, last night I thought, I'm going to have a really good night's sleep because I got this amazing podcast interview with Jaynie. No, I was up and down with both kids. Like, I haven't slept. You know, and you have to just roll with it. And if you fight it and battle it and get angry and irritated about it, it's just going to make it worse. And that's what happened with COVID, that I just went, okay, my daughter's not going to come out of COVID reading and writing brilliantly, which was what I originally expected. What about if I look at being more creative? So, you know, I kept toilet rolls. We've learned how to make mud using water, cacao and flour, and not caring if the whole deck is messy. And, you know, the kids would have baths outside. I'm really trying to embrace that aspect of it, but it has been really hard, and definitely trying to juggle business. I actually just had to let my label kind of tick along, because I knew my kids and my family really needed me at the time, and I was kind of fighting both ways. And I think in COVID, you've either got, like my mum, who's had extra time and is doing Qigong and reading more books, and it all sounds amazing, and, you know, I hear her friends learning languages, or you have the parents who are at home with little kids or homeschooling who have no time. I have less time than I did pre-COVID. I have no privacy. I just want everyone just to leave me alone for a moment. Just give me some quiet. It's very different.
It's certainly been an incredible time to reset, revalue and realign our lives on no matter what age you are, no matter what part of the world that you live, that's for sure. Katie, one of the questions that I always love to ask my special guests is that if you had, and this would be interesting because you have a nearly 4-year-old, but if you had an 8-year-old Katie sitting in front of you right now, what advice would you give her?
First of all, I would give her a big hug and just say, you are enough exactly how you are. I have always worried about my weight and have always been a people pleaser. And it's only now, even after having 2 kids, my body's completely changed. And I look back on photos when I was 8 and when I was 9 and when I was 10, and I was so self-conscious and so hard on myself. And there was nothing for me to worry about. You know, I was beautiful, and that's exactly, I would just hold myself and say, you are beautiful just how you are. Just be more of who you are.
Yeah, great advice. And Suzanne, same question for you. If you had an 8-year-old Suzanne sitting in front of you right now, what advice would you give her?
Definitely that she's enough, and to really follow her dreams. The 10-year-old Suzanne had huge dreams that I did follow, and nobody believed in me. I had one teacher. Everybody needs one person. And I had a teacher called Miss Foster who believed in me. And she gave me the guts to go to the audition for the ballet school in London, to follow my dream and not listen when people said, what do you think you're doing? You could never be a dancer. You're too small, your legs are too big, all these things, you know, the criticism. I would just say, like Katie, the same thing. You are beautiful, you're perfect. We are all amazing. And women are just so incredible. We have that amazing greatness inside of us. And often the light is dimmed by other people. So just that love and belief, and it takes a long time to get that. It takes a lifetime of experience to really believe in it and feel it and know it. And I'm at the age where I really don't care. I couldn't care less what people think about me. I don't care, because it's whatever they think, that's what they think. I can't change it. Whereas before, like Katie, you know, I was an absolute people pleaser, and I molded myself to the relationships I was in, always what my husband's wanted, husbands, no plural, I became. So that I would definitely not, I would tell her not to do that.
Yeah.
Not to mold herself to other people's dreams, for her, live her own dream.
Again, great advice. The two of you as a mother and daughter combo, I think that our audience will agree that you come across, yes, you are a tight knit, but you've also given us a little glimpse, and I really appreciate the personal vulnerability here. You've given us a little glimpse and an insight of your lives together, and I think it's safe to say that not only throughout the course of your lives together that you, Katie, have certainly learned and molded and taken things from Suzanne into your world, and now as a mother yourself. But I also get a very strong feeling that Suzanne, Katie's done a lot of that for you too,
Yes.
for the woman that you are now. And it's quite evident in
Yeah.
the conversation today. Would that be right?
Oh, definitely, Jaynie. You picked that up perfectly. She's been my greatest teacher. And I used to look at her when she was a little girl, and she was very quick to say no if she didn't want to do something. And I was this people pleaser who would always say yes and then go, I wish I hadn't said I was going to do this, or now I've got to go and do this television show or this podcast or whatever was happening at the time. And now I really pick and choose. And I'd watch Katie. She'd be invited to parties and say, no, thank you. And I'd wait for the sky to fall in on her and nothing would happen. It didn't happen. And she was a great teacher for me, and really listening to, because it's good to say yes, but it's also good sometimes to say no. And no is a complete sentence, as Oprah says.
Exactly, and especially for we women over 50. And I know this is a mother and daughter podcast, but the message is very strong for all women over 50, especially in these times of COVID. A lot of us are struggling with both business, career. Women have lost their jobs. They're struggling in their personal lives, but also struggling with their own personal identity, because it's in our faces now. We cannot escape it. And families and relationships with our children are so important, and especially the ones that are fractured. Now's the time for healing. And I think both of you have given us great confidence and great inspiration to actually take those steps. I want to thank both of you so much for being our very special guest on our first episode of Sheroes Unlimited, Mother and Daughter. And I'd love to invite both of you we run Boomer Babes Live, has lots of different events, both online and offline. And so I'd love to extend the invitation to both of you to present at one of our upcoming events as the mother and daughter duo, because I think the two of you as a combination have got so much more to give, and we women over 50, we really need to hear from you. So the invitation is open to both of you.
Oh, we would love that.
Thank you. What a pleasure. That would be fantastic. Thanks, Jaynie.
Thank you so much for being on this episode. As I say, Katie, happy birthday to Savannah tomorrow, and keep on making those mud pies out on the back veranda. And Suzanne, keep enjoying that quandong thingy, whatever you've started doing. As well. But thank you both for being on Sheroes Unlimited, Mother and Daughters.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's been an absolute joy.
Thanks, Jaynie.
So if you've enjoyed listening and watching this episode of Sheroes Unlimited, our special edition of Mothers and Daughter, we've absolutely been thrilled to have your company once again. Now, if you would like to make sure you never miss an episode, please make sure that you do subscribe. You can go to the website, boombabeslife.com, go to podcasts, subscribe there. You'll never miss an episode. You can also catch up on all previous episodes that we've had. We've got podcasts for readers. We've got our Behind the Book podcast. We've got our wellness podcast. It's all there. Go check it out. But it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here. If you'd like more information, or certainly to find out where you can contact these beautiful women, Suzanne Skillen and Katie Perry, all of their details are below where you are watching or hearing us right now. Whatever app you're streaming us from, iTunes, Spotify, Apple, website, we're everywhere. Make sure that you also keep in contact with them. All their social medias are below. But in the meantime, I'm Jaynie Morris, and wherever you are in this beautiful, amazing world of ours, I hope you have an absolutely fabulous day, and I look forward to having your company on Sheroes Unlimited in the very near future. Hi, I'm Jaynie Morris, founder and Chief Experience Officer at Boomer Babes Life. It's been our absolute pleasure having you listening in, tuning in to this latest podcast that we have created just for you. Gorgeous, amazing women over 50 around the world, because that's what Boomer Babes Life community is all about. Everything that we do, everything that we create, we have you in mind. We want to bring to you valuable content that helps inspire you, starts making you think a little bit more, helps empower you, helps to give you ideas and information that can help you. So if you've enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure that you have, we would love you to help us share it with the world. So please share this, please like, and of course comment. Give us your feedback, send us all of your details, and let us know what you're thinking. And of course, if you've got any topics that you would like us to highlight in any of our podcasts, please let us know that as well. Just send an email to info@boomerbabeslife.com.au. And of course, check everything else out at our website, boomerbabeslife.com. Everything that you need to know, every tool, every video, every podcast. We've got a fabulous shop there that's got some brilliant inspirational books and audios for you as well. And of course, also at our website at boomerbabeslife.com, you'll find out how you can get your latest issue of our Boomer Babes Life magazine for women over 50. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and wherever you are in this amazing world of ours, please have an absolutely fabulous day.